For 6,000 years, the earth in a quiet Italian field held a secret. And it wasn't gold or a lost temple. It was something far more intimate and way more baffling. The bodies of a young man and a woman locked in an eternal hug. Their limbs so intertwined it seemed not even death could break them apart. They instantly became a global sensation, a prehistoric Romeo and Juliet. But that romantic picture hides a dark and deeply disturbing contradiction. You see, they weren't buried alone. Near the man's throat lay a perfectly crafted flint arrowhead. Near the woman, a long flint blade. The scene screamed violence. A murder-suicide, maybe? A ritual killing? The press, of course, ran wild with the story of star-crossed lovers. But when forensic scientists got their hands on this 6,000-year-old cold case, they found something that made zero sense. There were no wounds, no broken bones, no signs of violence at all. So if they weren't murdered, what really killed the 6,000-year-old lovers? The answer is a chilling investigation that peels back the layers of a love story to expose a truth far stranger than fiction. The story starts in February 2007, just outside Mantua, Italy, which coincidentally is the city Shakespeare chose for Romeo's exile. An archaeological team, led by Elena Maria Menotti, was excavating a Neolithic site when they stumbled upon the find of a lifetime. In a cemetery filled with individual graves, they found one that was completely different. Two skeletons, face to face, arms and legs wrapped around each other in a tender embrace. Menotti and her team were floored. As she later said, "I have been involved in lots of digs all over Italy, but nothing has excited me as much as this. They are face to face and their arms and legs are entwined and they are really hugging." Double burials from the Neolithic period are incredibly rare. An embrace like this, it was unheard of in northern Italy. The find was so fragile and so profound, the team had to make a critical decision. Instead of excavating the bones one by one as standard practice, they chose to preserve the moment. They carefully dug out the entire block of earth holding the couple, lifted it with massive belts, and moved it to a lab, making sure the 6,000-year-old hug would not be broken. The world was captivated, but for the scientists, the real work was just getting started. Back in the lab, this ancient cold case started giving up its secrets. Forensic analysis confirmed the skeletons belonged to a young man and woman. They were shockingly young, no older than 20 when they died. They were also small in stature, both standing about 5 feet, 2 inches tall. After 6,000 years of anonymity, science was finally giving them a profile. Two people on the very edge of adulthood, their lives cut short by a complete mystery. The romantic image of the eternal hug now had a heartbreakingly human side. The first job for any investigator is to find the cause of death. And the first place they looked for clues were the very items that seemed to tell the story so clearly: the grave goods. The evidence was laid out: one flint arrowhead by the man's neck, a long flint blade by the woman's thigh, and 2 smaller flint knives under her pelvis. It looked like an open and shut case of violence. But science has a way of ruining a good story with cold, hard facts.
No. Wait.
When forensic anthropologists examined the skeletons, they were searching for the telltale signs of a violent end. Cut marks on the bone, fractures from a fight, the kind of damage an arrowhead would leave. They scanned every rib, every vertebra, every inch of bone, and they found nothing. Absolutely nothing. No evidence of violent trauma. The bones were perfectly intact. The conclusion was chilling and undeniable. Those weapons weren't murder weapons at all. They were grave goods, symbolic items buried with the dead for the afterlife, a common practice in the Neolithic period. This one forensic fact blew the whole case wide open. This wasn't a murder-suicide. It wasn't a violent sacrifice. The story was far more complicated. The most obvious clues were a total misdirection. So now, the central puzzle was even deeper. They had 2 young, seemingly healthy people who died at the exact same time, buried with weapons, but with no sign of being killed. How could 2 people just die together? With the murder theory debunked, investigators had to get creative. One romantic theory was that the couple, maybe looking for shelter from a harsh winter, froze to death in each other's arms. It's a poetic idea, but it doesn't really hold up. The fact they were found in a formal necropolis, an organized cemetery, means they didn't just die in a field. They were intentionally buried, which leads to the most widely accepted scientific conclusion about their position. The leading hypothesis among archaeologists is that the couple didn't actually die in this embrace. They died either together or at separate times, and their community, their family, deliberately arranged them this way after death. This wasn't a moment of death caught in time. It was a powerful, symbolic act, a post-mortem declaration of their bond. This tells us something incredible about their culture, that they believed the bonds you forge in this life continue in the next. Burying them this way was a statement that the relationship, whether they were lovers, family, or partners, was eternal. It transforms the scene from one of tragic violence into one of incredible community respect and love. But this still leaves the biggest question hanging in the air, the central mystery of the cold case. What actually killed them? This is the point where history and science often hit a wall, leaving us with tantalizing questions. If you find yourself fascinated by the mysteries the past leaves behind and the modern science that attempts to solve them, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell. We dive into ancient cold cases and unexplained archaeological finds every week, and you won't want to miss what we uncover next. The honest truth is, we may never know for sure what killed the lovers of Valdaro. Two healthy young people dying at the same time points to a few possibilities. Maybe a sudden illness that left no trace on the bone, a fast-acting poison that has long since disappeared, or maybe a single tragic event that took both their lives without leaving a single mark. For all its power, science has its limits when you're looking back 6,000 years. While DNA analysis has been attempted, the results have been inconclusive in determining their exact relationship or a clear cause of death. We don't know if they were related or what their genetic story was, and the very embrace that made them famous also makes them incredibly difficult to study without causing damage in separating them. So the case remains cold. Science managed to debunk the most sensational theory, the murder, but in its place, it left a deeper, more human mystery. We are left with the undeniable facts. Two young people died, and the people who loved them buried them in a way that would preserve their bond for eternity. For eternity! Today, the lovers of Valdaro rest in a specially designed case at the National Archaeological Museum of Mantua, still locked in their 6,000-year-old hug. Their story isn't the prehistoric Romeo and Juliet tragedy the world first assumed. There was no dagger, no poison, no family feud that we have any evidence of. Instead, the evidence points to a story that is perhaps even more profound. A story not about a violent end, but about a community's powerful statement about love, connection, and what comes next. They wanted the world, and whatever afterlife they believed in, to know that these two people belonged together. The question of what killed them may be lost to time, but the question of why they were buried this way seems clear. It was an act of love, and in the end, it's that eternal, silent embrace, a 6,000-year-old message of human connection that truly makes their story immortal. If you thought this 6,000-year-old love story couldn't get any more bizarre, well, buckle up. We've got even more archaeological weirdness on the way. So hit that subscribe button, because we dive into history's most jaw-dropping mysteries every week. And hey, if you think the lovers of Valdaro got the most epic cuddle in history, let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll find out what other ancient couples were up to. Also, don't forget to ring the bell, or, the ancient equivalent of a bell, if you're feeling extra historical. You don't want to miss our next deep dive into the strangest finds the past has left behind. And if you're looking for more awesome content, check out my last video where we take a look at the killer kangaroo. Yes, the one that might just haunt your dreams. Or if you're into ancient human history, I've also got a video on early Homo sapiens in Southeast Asia. Did they evolve differently from the rest of the world? Spoiler, yes, and it's fascinating. Catch you next time with more jaw-dropping discoveries.